Welcome to From the Trenches, success shortcuts revealed by real world innovators crushing it right now. I'm your host, Scott Hartley, and we're back with another episode packed with actionable strategies from today's most successful entrepreneurs. If you're tired of generic business advice and ready for real cutting edge tactics that are working right now, you're in the right place. And today's topic, I think, is really timely with based upon a lot of conversations I've had recently with business owners of all different industries. And I think a lot of it has to do with, our uncertain economic times and just everything that's going on in the world today. And so my guest today is going to share with us his insights from many years of being in the space of the easiest way to double your income in the shortest possible time. Now, I don't know of any business owner that doesn't want to make more money and do it as fast as possible. So I think this is going to be an amazing conversation. So let me introduce you to Michael Zipursky. Michael is the co-founder and CEO of Consulting Success, where they specialize in helping consulting business owners go to the next level and grow their business. He's advised organizations like Financial Times, Dow Jones, RBC, and he's helped Panasonic launch new products into global markets. But more importantly, he's helped over 1,200 consultants from around the world in over 75 industries add 6 and 7 figures to their annual revenues. Tens of thousands of consultants read his weekly consulting newsletter, and Michael's also the author of the bestsellers Act Now, How Successful Consultants Thrive During Chaos and Uncertainty, The Elite Consulting Mind, and Consulting Success, the book. Michael, I'm so glad to have you on the podcast today.
Hey Scott, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So before we kind of dive into the topic, you've got a lot of experience, a wealth of experience in a lot of different, industries and just kind of different businesses and things like that. I'd love to kind of get your backstory, like where did all this kind of come from, and then how did you start working with different businesses of different sizes?
Yeah, my first business was just as I was transitioning from high school into college. My cousin Sam, who's my co-founder still today at Consulting Success, we started this earlier company called Fingertip Media, which is a web design and development company. So this was very early days. Not many people had websites, but we saw that as an opportunity.
Hmm.
And so we worked with all types of companies in that space. Our next company was called Kankei Culture. Kankei is the Japanese word for relationship. We are very big believers in the power of relationships in business, and that was a branding and visual design consultancy. Through that business, I actually ended up going to Japan and opening up the branch office there. So it allowed me to work with some very large, multi-billion-dollar Japanese organizations, helping them to communicate more effectively to English-speaking countries.
Hmm.
When I came back to North America after about 6 years building that business in Japan, I opened up a lead generation consultancy working with professional services firms, helping them just to generate more leads, grow their businesses with more effective marketing.
Hmm.
And Sam and I had, built those businesses. We had sold a couple of businesses together that I didn't mention. There's been quite a few over the years.
Sure.
And we were at a family barbecue one day. We were doing different things. I was running this company called Religy Marketing, so it stood for Relationship Strategy Marketing, and that was the lead generation consultancy. And Sam was working for a newspaper as a marketing director. And we were at this family barbecue. And we thought, we should do something together again, but this time let's do something online. So think before digital nomads, before Zoom, before people, or before it was normal to just be able to live and work anywhere,
Hmm.
and operate online successfully. But we saw that as something that would really fit our values. We both have always loved travel, different countries, meeting people, and so we looked at where do we really have a lot of experience? Where could we start to share our successes, our failures, our lessons learned, and consulting stood out to us. We had been at that point, building consulting businesses for over a decade, and we thought, let's just start sharing our experiences of building these consulting businesses. And that's where we started Consulting Success. And we just put out content. There was no real monetization behind it. People started saying, hey, this is great content. You guys have a course that we could learn how to become more successful in the consulting businesses ourselves. And we said, no, but we'll create one. So we did. Today we have probably about 1,500 people that have gone through that. And then those clients said, this is a great course. My business is growing. I'm making more money. Is there a way to work more closely with you guys? For example, through coaching. We said, well, we don't have a coaching program, but we'll create one. And so we did. And we've had now about 1,200 people go through the Clarity Coaching Program at this point. So that's really how we got to where we are today. We've now been running Consulting Success for about 16, actually probably about 17 years.
Hmm.
And we've had the real, honor and pleasure of working with thousands of people all around the world in so many different industries, helping them just to be more confident and more successful consulting business owners that not only allow them to make more money and be more strategic, but also to build and have lifestyles that give them more of that freedom and control that they generally, got into business desiring.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we all want, is like that build that lifestyle business that allows us to do whatever it is that our desires are. And unfortunately, a lot of times, we get into business, and many people that I talk to, they've just created a job
Yeah.
for themselves, so it's not a lot of fun. There's a couple of things that you just said, just kind of on your background that really stuck out to me. So number one is that you started with, websites, the early days of the internet. And you're not the first guest that's been on here that kind of started in that same space. But what's interesting is that you were forward thinking, you were seeing the opportunity.
Hmm.
Like, oh, okay, there's this new thing called the internet. And what's the possibility with this? Okay, people need websites. They've got to be found. And so then you just, cash in on that, right? You find that opportunity and then you start running with it. I think that that's really interesting and something that all of us, really kind of need to take away is it's easy for us to get caught up in the minutia of day to day and just
Hmm.
doing what we do. But would you agree that we probably need to set aside some time every week, every month, and use that for forward thinking and just see where's my industry going? Where is the world going? And what opportunities lie in it for me?
Yeah, I think there's no question that not enough people carve out time in their schedule to just, apply strategic thinking to just really think about their business. And this is why that the saying is so common that people are too lost working in their business and they don't have enough time or they don't create enough time to work on their business. And further to your point, I think just something that's really critical is, you talked about us identifying things in the future, but really what we are doing is we are finding or identifying problems or opportunities. And
Hmm.
one of the biggest struggles that I see people having, or the reason I should say that the people tend to struggle in business, and they're very busy. There's a lot of activity. They feel productive, but they're not necessarily seeing or making the progress that they would like. And when I boil that down and just kind of analyze what's going on, what tends to be the most common reason for that is that they're focusing on things that are not real big problems for people or not real big opportunities, which
Mm.
tends to mean that they're also just kind of playing at the commodity level, competing with so many other people, saying, something very similar to the person beside you. So it's hard to distinguish yourself. It's hard to get somebody to say yes, to want to engage with you or to buy your thing if your thing isn't really speaking to a painful problem that a buyer wants to solve or a real opportunity that they can see the value in. And we can talk more about that because that directly connects to the concept of how to double your income or how to double your revenue. But I just wanted to kind of point that out as well.
Yeah, no, that's great insight. And then, something you said that are kind of tied into the next point that I wanted to get to. You said, you started up, your consulting agency, but it was basically, just putting out content, and then people were coming to you. It's like, hey, you got a course? It's like, I want to learn more from you. Your
Yeah.
content's great, but do you have something that's more digestible, something that's, more consolidated? And so you went and you created the course. Then the next thing was like, hey, we want to have some coaching. Can we get some more time with you and really take this to the next level? And I think, what's really interesting about that is that really kind of two things that I kind of read into that was number one is with your content strategy, you created the demand for more.
Hmm.
Then with your courses, then you created the demand for the coaching, but you didn't just go out and create everything, but when people started asking for it, that gave you an opportunity, in a way to easily double your income, right? Because now you've got other ways that you can serve the people that are already highly interested in what you're producing.
Yeah, we've always been, I mean, as you can probably tell from just even a few names of companies that we've had in the past, we're very big believers in relationships. We're very big believers in playing, the game of business for the long term,
Hmm.
and of giving before trying to get. So, we invest a lot, and even from the early days, invested a lot of time, a lot of resources, in some cases, a lot of money into finding ways to give value to the marketplace, having the belief that at some point that will translate into people seeing, well, this is valuable stuff and it's free in many cases. What would it look like? Imagine how good it would be, or how you know helpful the content or the programs are that this organization, this company has, or these people are putting out that are at a paid or a premium level. But our goal has always been just to put that out consistently. This is why we've been publishing all types of content from, if you go to Consulting Success on the YouTube channel, if you could check out the Consulting Success podcast, written 4 books. We have, I don't know if it's a thousand, but probably close to 1,000 articles over time. We've done a lot of studies of consultants where we take hundreds of people through these studies and surveys, and we publish those reports for free. That's just the approach that we've always felt is the right one for us. We're not trying to just create a business that is based on transactions. We want to create relationships. We have many clients that have been with us for 5, 6, 7 years, and they've gone that journey of, in some cases, getting started all the way to now running multi-million-dollar consulting businesses. Most of the consultants that we work with these days tend to already be at the 6 and 7 or multi-7 figure levels, but being able to be part of that journey and helping people to make that transformation where they have a skill set, they have an expertise, and really what they're just lacking is guidance around, well, how do I actually build and strategically build a consulting business and all the aspects that go into it. That's what excites us, and that's where we really trying to help people every day.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you focus on, that you're building a relationship with your clients.
Yeah.
It's in today's society, in today's world, a lot of businesses lose sight of the fact that it's relationships, with our clients. And a lot of it just becomes very transactional, and it's very hard to grow. Because in my opinion, there's a lot more work that you have to do just to chase that next transaction. But if you're building these deep relationships, your business can blossom from so many things. Is that person wants to do more with you. So that's going to, help you grow your business. They're going to refer other people to you. And it's just, it's a marketing strategy in and of itself. But getting back, people love to do business with other humans. And I think if we bring that to our businesses, it pays off in spades.
Yep. And that'll, in my opinion, will only increase in the age that we're in now, where AI is becoming, so much of a bigger topic and will only continue to grow. Is that as technology continues to become more and more at the forefront and embedded throughout our lives and our businesses, that most people will crave and have an even greater desire for the connection with other human beings. So I see that as a really great opportunity, and it's just something for people to think about in terms of their business models and how they're approaching running their businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of gave us a little bit of a tease earlier, about how to double the income and do that in the shortest possible time, and you kind of teased that when we're talking about the website business and things like that. Share with us, kind of your secret there. What's the easiest way to do that, and maybe some of the other sub strategies behind that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't really call it a secret. And certainly I know it might sound like one of those wild claims that people see on the internet, right? Double your income. And it's not meant to be that. I think there's very few things that, or a few things that you see online. Like, it might kind of sound sensational or very exciting and desirable. But generally, a lot of things take a lot more work than people make them out to seem. What I'm really talking about here, just plain and simple, is a way that we've seen countless clients, consulting business owners, but really anyone in professional services. And I would go as far as saying probably any business can benefit from this. And I'm not trying to say that every single person, like, this is definitely not a statement that do this and you will see these results. So just to kind of put that disclaimer on it, but I've
Sure.
just observed time and time again, I can't count the number of clients that have grown their businesses significantly and had massive breakthroughs by applying what I'm about to share with you, which is as simple as this: it's increase your prices. Uh, Especially for those in professional services, right? If you're kind of an expert in the expert kind of business, if you are a consultant or a coach, There's probably no other kind of lever or lever in your business that you can pull, right, or dial that you can turn that can have as big of an impact in that short period of time, right? Everything else, if you think about how to generate more clients, get more leads, most things, not all things, but most things that you do will take some time, right? If you look at most businesses, the success that you're seeing today in your business in terms of lead flow, in terms of opportunities, your pipeline, recognition, authority building, right? All of that is in most cases the result of not what you've been doing in the last days or weeks. It's what you've been doing 90 days, 120 days ago, right? It's
Mhm.
and that compounds over time. But with pricing, when you actually turn that dial, when you know how to strategically work on your pricing and position your pricing and your services the right way, literally the next day or that same day, you can start earning more than you are today, right? You can double your income, you can double your profits, you can double. We've had clients that have quadrupled, in some cases, 5, 6, 7 times what they were earning before, simply by repositioning their pricing. So
Mhm.
I want to add a bit more context to that if I can, Scott. Is
Oh
that all
yeah,
right? Just
absolutely. I've got a lot of questions, but I think you're probably
okay.
going to answer some of them. So
Yeah, I just don't want to give like a high level statement and not provide some ideas of how to actually implement this. So
yeah.
number one, if you're early stage, meaning if you haven't really sold very much in your business and you're just getting started, then don't pay attention to what I'm saying, because this is not really for you. If you're just getting started, your number one focus should just be to make some sales, right? And validate that there is a need in the marketplace, meaning that you've identified a match between what you're offering and what the market actually wants. It doesn't even matter if you lose a bit of money on your first couple of sales, as long as you're validating that there's an actual opportunity and demand in the marketplace. But for those of you who have an existing business, you have clients, you've proven, you've validated that yes, there is a need and demand in the marketplace. This is where that pricing dial and approaching it strategically can have a tremendous impact. And the big shift to make is from thinking about pricing in terms of your time or units of time or deliverables, and instead really moving towards what is the outcome, the value, the results that you deliver to clients. I just spoke to somebody, it was yesterday or the day before, and we identified that in this individual's scenario, so they're a solo consultant doing okay, but certainly they could be doing better. And what we identified was that they work with clients between typically $3 and $30 million in revenue per year. That is their client base.
Hmm.
They had also been working with clients that were doing below $1 million. But what we very quickly identified is number one, that people below 3 million, it just doesn't make sense for them to work with those people anymore, even though they could, because the value that they deliver, they'd be able to deliver much greater value for those 3 million and above,
Hmm.
right? Like an incremental, let's say a 10% improvement is going to have on a company doing 3 million means $300,000 in additional revenue or profit. On a company doing 500,000, right? It's $50,000.
Hmm.
So you can do that. You can provide the same service, right? The same amount of time, but a company at 3 million is going to see a $300,000 return, right, or improvement, as opposed to $50,000. So if you just think about your pricing, who can you charge more to? Well, of course you can charge more to the company at 3 million, never mind a company at 10 million or 25 million or 30 million, right?
Hmm.
You're doing the same thing, but the value that is being created is significantly greater. So
Hmm.
the opportunity is to think about creating premium uh, products or services, working and or moving up market a little bit, and really connecting the work that you're doing to the value that you're creating. So in this individual, in this consultant's case, we're able to look at how they can easily double, if not triple, their fees, and have their clients actually be more excited to invest and work with them, because instead of just talking about the deliverables or the number of hours of workshops or things that they're doing, their focus is now shifted on the actual outcomes. And so if a client can see, yeah, I stand to make an extra, in this individual's case, is about minimum $800,000 per year improvement. They were charging $30,000 or less per year before we had this conversation. After this conversation, they realized, you know what, I can be charging minimum $60,000, but more likely I could probably even charge $100,000, because my clients are going to be making $800,000 or more in the first year of us working together. So that's the I guess the first part to frame it up. And I don't know if you have questions about that, Scott. I can add a little bit more on some additional thoughts, but I want to be conscious of the time that we have. So you let me know what would be most helpful.
Yeah, no, that's a great deep dive on that because, it's thinking about getting out of our own mind, but it's thinking about what is going to be the benefit to my client, that their business. And, you mentioned like that first, and I love the fact that you threw in like the first year, it's going to be $800,000 for that, that business. But there's years after that. And so you kind of
Mhm.
have to take that into consideration. What I teach you, what I help you with during this time that we're working together, even if I charge you $100,000, you're making 8 times that in just the first year. And then the next year, who knows what it's going to be, beyond that. And so we have, again, it's just expanding our mind and thinking what's the true value. And again, I mean, as a business owner that, be paying $100,000, knowing that I can get an $800,000 return on it, I'll stand at that ATM machine all day long, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, go on to the next point that you were going to make there.
Yeah. So in order to do this, right, I talked about one part of it. I know we won't have time to cover all the things that you need to take into account. And it's also important to realize that there's going to be case by case. There's going to be some nuances, right? Everyone's
Mhm.
situation is a little bit different. So you really want to make sure that you're approaching this the right way in your specific case. But the other part that I want to add is that in order to really make something like this work, you need to think about at least two other factors. The first is that the work that you're doing, you want to connect it to must-haves, not just nice to haves. So if
Mhm.
we go back several years, I don't know when this episode will air, but you go back a few years, a lot of buyers, a lot of people in the world, going to organizations and so forth, decision makers were investing in nice to haves, right? Money was flowing in the system. People were they were like, yeah, you can help us to improve this, sure. It's not the same environment today.
Right.
The environment today, especially when you're looking at working with organizations, so our clients tend to work with organizations, could be nonprofit, could be for profit, could be a funded startup or a multi-billion-dollar organization, but they're working with organizations, and in those situations, you really need to make sure that your service or your product directly connects to a must-have for that organization, not just a nice-to-have. If it's a nice-to-have, it tends to be looked at as a commodity. It leads to much longer sales cycles. It's hard to really connect it to value. So that's kind of one part. The second part, which is also connected to that, is that the must have should be supported by a business case. So, what is the actual business case? And when I say business, again, we have a lot of clients that work in nonprofits. So, this is not only about a for-profit organization, but what is the organizational reason, if you will, right? The business case. How will the organization actually be better off?
Hmm.
And the default for a lot of people is to talk about our deliverables or the amount of time or the features, and you get this and you get that. That's not a business case, right? Some of those things are important to include, but what really moves the needle in getting a buyer to say yes to a significantly higher, so in this, we talked about double or more,
Hmm.
your income and your revenue and your average project value. In order to do that, the buyer must see a real clear business case, right?
Hmm.
How will they actually be better off? What does this look like? What is this? What problems does this solve? What does the potential ROI look like? If that value is not clearly communicated, then buyers typically won't be as excited or may even kind of push back on significantly higher fees because your fees may be much higher than others around you who are just talking about their hourly fees or other things. But when you do this, what you do is you position yourself as a premium provider. You position yourself as being different than the vast majority of other people. And not all buyers will want to invest at those premium levels, but for the vast majority of consultants that we work with, they're not looking to attract or to work with hundreds of clients per year.
Hmm.
We've seen in our studies that most consultants are able to achieve their goals with between 8 and up to 20 clients per year. It's
Hmm.
not that many clients, right? So you can then be in a position where you can say no to the wrong client because now what you're focusing on is really just being able to say yes to the right clients. And when they're at premium fees, it allows you to earn more, make more profit, and if you want, work the same as you've been working right now, or if some cases even work less than what you've been working in the past, but make significantly more.
Yeah. And, with that fewer number of clients, you're able to pour in more to those clients and, deliver an even higher value of service, to them. Now, a question that kind of comes to mind is, so obviously, raising your prices, eventually doubling those, that type of thing. What have you seen? Like, what's the best way to do that? Like, if you're, still doing outreach, and like you mentioned earlier, like you may have some leads that are coming in, you've had conversations, but that work started, 3 months ago. But now, you decide today, okay, I'm raising my prices. Do you just start off with, okay, I've got this conversation tomorrow and I'm going to quote my new price to that new client? And versus how do you do that with existing clients that maybe you already are working with?
Yeah, so this is a bigger conversation, but I'll try and touch on those two questions that you just had. So for new clients, it's very easy, right? You have your new pricing. Uh,
Hmm.
but I should add one thing, which is in the consulting world, you never lead with your pricing. You lead with a deep discussion around the value and
Hmm.
making sure that the value is identified, that there's a good fit, that you're clear that you are confident that you can deliver the results and outcome that would be beneficial for that buyer. One of the last things that you get to is the actual pricing. You'll ask questions to qualify and to ensure that the person you're talking to is going to be a good fit and has the ability to invest at the level that makes sense. But you don't lead with pricing. But any new clients, yeah, it's very simple. You essentially just what's been working for you in terms of whenever you're talking about pricing, and hopefully you have a good process, but you'd follow a best practice and you would just move right to your new pricing. Simple as that. I mean, we've seen literally with clients, same day or in some cases next day, they're already using it and they're winning new deals because they just realize like, yeah, I can do this. I had never thought about it this way. I now see how the dots connect and we help them with that. That's one of the things we do inside of our Clarity coaching program is really work with clients around their proposals, their pricing, all these different pieces, so that they feel really confident, so they see how all that kind of comes together, and then they just go out and start winning new business at significantly higher fees.
Hmm.
So I'd say that's a very straightforward situation. Existing clients is a little bit different, and that's because nobody likes to pay more for what they see as the same thing.
Hmm.
So then the question becomes, and this is why I'm saying, Scott, it's not. There's some nuance and some context and situations that need to be considered. For example, if your schedule right now is already busy with a lot of clients and your pipeline is full and you can be a bit more selective about who you take on, it becomes quite also straightforward because you can go to all of your clients and say, hey, we're going to be raising prices, this is where we're moving to, here's why. Ideally you're adding something in that maybe they haven't had before, or maybe you don't, and you just say this is the direction that we're going, and here's why we're doing it. And you may have some people that drop off, but typically the ones that drop off are going to be the clients that have been paying the least amount of money, the ones that tend to require the most amount of your time. And so, quote unquote, they're kind of your lowest value clients. And it's natural to have some level of attrition in any business. And ideally, what you want to do is you want to replace the lowest value clients with high value clients, and your business will then continue to grow. If that's not the case, if you don't have a full pipeline, if you're concerned about a big drop in revenue, then it becomes a question of how do you structure and position the higher fees so that buyers, or in this case clients, see that it makes sense for them to invest more. And that'll be a mixture of we just haven't increased our fees for a period of time, or we now have a team with new certifications, or we're growing, we have more capability or capacity to serve you. But what I also tend to counsel our clients around, or to at least consider, is what can you as a consultant do and provide that doesn't take you a lot of additional time or resources or money, but to the client it becomes more valuable. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a client that's paying you $1,500 per month right now, and you want to charge $2,500 per month, going forward. Well, let's just make it simple. Say 3,000, right? So we'll do our doubling.
Yeah.
So how would you do that? Well, that might be a mixture of saying that in addition to everything that we've been providing you to this point, we're also now going to be giving you a dashboard where every week you're going to see updated KPIs and metrics and blah blah, right? And we're also going to have a monthly call where your team can come on and ask questions, and we're going to support you. We're also going to be sending you out a weekly update and report of intelligence of what's happening inside of your industry, so that you can figure out how to navigate that and be ahead of your competitors and use that for content. And like I'm just giving those are just a few very high level rough examples, but
Hmm.
none of those things necessarily takes a lot of time or energy once you've built some of those systems or even automated or use some AI. And so there's so many ways that you can provide additional value to clients that for the client it's very valuable, but for you as the provider doesn't necessarily take you a lot of additional time or money or resources. So therefore, uh, it's a very powerful way for you to double your fees.
Hmm.
Clients get more value, so they see, yeah, it makes more sense. And if you add on top of that, that maybe you haven't increased your fees for some period of time, and yeah, you may have again some natural attrition where not everybody says yes, and then you have the decision to make. Do you meet them in the middle and negotiate a price? Do you say, hey, I don't want to lose you, and okay, like we'll keep at the current price that we're on? Do you say goodbye and wish them the best and try and support them with some offboarding process? But then now you have your calendar free to take on a client that will pay 3,000, because if you think about it just from some simple math, right, you need two clients to equal one client value of the
Yeah.
new. So if you have, let's say, 10 clients right now, you'd be at the same income level with just five clients.
Right.
Or if you take 10 clients, right, because you get rid of some of the lower paying ones, now you've doubled your income.
Hmm.
So those are some of the pieces in the math that people can be thinking about
Hmm.
and model. And that's why it really isn't that complicated, but it is important to do it in the right way. But it can have obviously a very tremendous and positive impact for people going forward. I mean, just think about what would your life be like right now if going forward, you double your income, but you didn't have to work double as hard or double as much time
Hmm.
to generate that income. And that's what everybody actually has the ability to do with this.
Yeah. And so there's a couple takeaways. Number one is that, and I don't remember who I heard this from, but it's, I've heard it several times, but, really every year we should always be looking to get rid of the lowest 20% of our client base, the
Mhm.
ones where we are investing more time than what they're paying us for, or they're just, problematic or whatever that is, always, trying to up level, with the clients that we have. But, I just drew a blank on the second thing that I was thinking there, but really it's all about, it was, one of the things that you emphasized several times was explaining the why. You
Mhm.
can't just say, hey, we're gonna, double our rates,
Well,
we're glad you're
you
here.
can if you want to lose clients,
Yeah,
then
exactly.
certainly you can do
Right.
that.
Yeah, if you're going to cut the 20%. But, giving that rationale why. Here's why, because I know that a lot of companies, again, in today's economic environment, and most of them are SaaS companies, but, they send out an email, hey, we're increasing your monthly amount. I think I got one
Right.
from Spotify, a couple weeks ago that,
Sure.
they're increasing it by $1 a month. I don't recall if they ever shared why that they were actually doing it or not. I don't think they did, but maybe they did. But again, if you don't have a good reasoning, then now people question, hey, am I really getting the value from this? And maybe
Right.
that's what you want, but I like, that you focused on give them a reason why. And then if you can add on something that doesn't cost you a lot, that's even
Yeah. I mean, a distinction I would make is if we're talking about an increase in utility prices, gas prices, Spotify bills, Netflix, things of that nature where it's going up $1, $2, three. Most people, as long as you either it's a necessity, like let's say gas or utilities,
better.
there's not much you can do about that. And if it's Netflix or Spotify and you use them and you value them, most people don't mind paying a little bit more on a monthly basis as long as they're able to. But when you're talking about an increase of hundreds or thousands of dollars per month, as an example, right, or
Hmm.
in some cases it could be a lot more,
Yeah.
then it does require some justification and does require a more thoughtful, strategic approach to make sure that it's done and done well. Because otherwise, it really could be detrimental to your business if you don't think it through or prepare in the right way.
Yeah. I know we're getting close to our time, but there's one other thing that I want to just kind of have you touch on because I
Sure.
think that this is so important. This is something that I've struggled with, that I'm starting to overcome myself. And I actually just, did it this week, is I increased my price for one of my services. And I went into the call with, okay, this is what I'm going to charge because I already kind of knew what I was going to be doing. But actually, when I was on the call, I don't know what it was. I just decided to quote a higher price, because I felt I knew that the value was there, and I
Nice.
did, and I actually won that business.
Yep.
But for me, and I feel like for a lot of people, that the confidence is just not there. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I can say that number. Oh,
Yeah.
what if they don't, what if they give me pushback? What if they say no? What do you counsel your clients on to really show up in confidence and be able to stand firm in the number that they know that they're worth and that they should be charging.
Yeah, I mean, this is a topic I'm very passionate about, and this is why I wrote the book, The Elite Consulting Mind, because what I found, Scott, is that most people, if you look at the difference between somebody who struggles and somebody who succeeds, it's not the knowledge around just tactics or strategies. Like there's a lot of people out there who know what they should do. Right? They study, they read the books, they do all that kind of stuff, but they're still struggling, and that's because it's their mindset, right? There's something blocking them. There's confidence, there's self esteem, there's fill in the blank. Uh, and that's what I kind of lay out some examples around. But for your specific question, it comes down to a few things. Number one, understanding what is the real value that you're creating. So if you don't have a value conversation with a buyer, if you don't go deep enough, if you don't ask the right questions, it's going to be very challenging for you to identify what that value is. And then it's going to be very hard for you to feel confident in being able to connect and to know that your more, your higher premium fees, in fact, still will create a really positive ROI for that client. So
Mhm.
that's number one, is understanding how to have that value conversation. Number two is then also understanding how to do the math and just know that your client will get a really positive ROI, and recognizing that they're going to be excited by the return that they get. Going back to your example or what we were talking about before, you said you would stand at the ATM, all day long if you were paying 100,000 by getting $800,000 back,
Mhm.
right? You can say that with confidence, and you mean it. Like if you were confident that you were going to get $800,000 back, you would just put 100,000 over, like I would too, right? That's anyone in their right mind that understands the what's going on there. It's
Right.
simple math, but you need to understand, like have the understanding of how to figure that math out and to know what. So I've captured a bunch of information from this client, asked the right questions. Now, what does that actually look like, and how do I build a business case around that? And so when you do that, now all of a sudden you really understand. You can be confident because you know that you're actually serving this client at the highest level, because they're going to get a tremendous value in return from the work that you're doing together. And then the third thing is that you just need to do it. I remember one day, this was many years ago, I sat down with a client. They came into town. We were having breakfast at the Pacific Rim restaurant. This is part of the Fairmont in Vancouver, in an area called Cole Harbor. We were looking over the ocean, and I was talking with her, and she was saying, I'm really kind of afraid to increase my fees. And we just talked through. I said, listen, here's how to do it. Like explained in detail some of the things, and I said, just you need to go for it. Just like, I know you might feel a bit uncomfortable, but after we're talking through, just do it. She's okay, I will. And she won that business. And she won that business at over $100,000 more than what she was thinking that she could initially
Mm.
before that conversation. And it was a significant win for her.
Yeah.
When you do that once, all of a sudden you prove to yourself that, okay, I can do it. It's like, you ride a bike or learn to ride a bike at the beginning. It's hard, right?
Mhm.
It's not easy, but you don't give up, you don't stop. And once you go, okay, I figured out how to get this balance, now that becomes normal, and you never look back, right? You don't fall off your bike generally after you learn how to ride a bike and get balance, because you learned it. So
Mhm.
it's the understanding of what are the actual components that you need to learn to apply to be successful, to be confident, and then you need to take the action. You
Mhm.
can't delay it. You can't keep thinking of reasons not to do it. You need to feel confident enough that there's value being created for both parties. And then once you do it, it becomes just. I mean, the only thing that will come up after that is you'll probably say to yourself, I wish I would have done this earlier." That's
Right.
pretty much the most common one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Michael, this has been a lot of great insight. I know that it's been valuable to me. Some things that I'm going to go back and listen, again to to this and take some really good notes and start implementing and applying this in my own business. So I'm sure that our listeners will as well. I know you've got a free gift for our listeners as well. You want to take just a minute or two to share what that is and where people can find that?
Yeah, definitely. It's a resource. It's called the Consulting Blueprint. So if you are a consultant looking to grow your business to the next level, and you want to do it, strategically and profitably, and really build a business that not only becomes more financially successful, but also gives you more freedom and the lifestyle that you want. What we've done is we put together some of our most popular resources and articles and best practices into this. I think it's 47 pages, so there's quite a bit there. I think quite valuable for people based on feedback that we've gotten. And anyone that wants that, you can get free access to it. Just go to consultingsuccess.com/blueprint. So that's consultingsuccess.com/blueprint, and you can get access to it right away. We have also a whole bunch of other resources. I mean, consultingsuccess.com is kind of home to everything, Scott. So a lot of free resources there for people just to explore.
Awesome. Well, Michael, I appreciate your time today. That's all for today's episode of From the Trenches. Again, make sure you go grab your copy of the Consulting Blueprint. That's at consultingsuccess.com/blueprint. We'll put the link in the show notes as well, just in case you're not at a place where you can write that down. And if you're looking to supercharge your email marketing, check out my book, Hit the Inbox, at hitttheinboxbook.com. It's packed with 76 pages of strategies to get your emails landing in inboxes and driving sales. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform. It helps us reach more entrepreneurs like you. And until next time, keep crushing it in the trenches.